How's it going, everybody? Paul the Car Whisperer here, and today I'm going to show you how to do a brake job. I'll be demonstrating on my 2005 Acura TSX using the front wheel. So here are all the tools that you need. You're going to need a jack of some sort, jack stands, a breaker bar to get your wheel lug nuts off, a socket set for getting some of the bolts off on the brakes, a wheel lock if that's applicable, some brake clean and some towels for cleaning off the new rotor, a pad spreader tool, brake grease, and then some other tools that are usually helpful are a pry bar to get the old brake pads out, and then steel wire brushes for cleaning out the old brake hardware. So that should be all you need. Let's get to it. So at this point I will mention that I don't actually need new brakes, but I wanted to make a video of how to change your brake pads and rotors. So I'm just going to take apart my brakes and then put them back together pretending that I have new brake pads and rotors. So you'll get the idea. Alright, so the car is jacked up. I got a wheel under it and I have another jack stand under it. So now we're sure that the car's not going to fall on me. We can get started on the brakes. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove this caliper. This is what squeezes the brake pads together, and it's pretty easy to take off. There is a couple of bolts. There's one right here, and then there's one right here. So here, you can identify them because you should see these little rubber boot things that hold the caliper guide pins, and then you just find the bolt right on top of it. So that's what we'll take off first. And spraying some penetrating fluid on these bolts can be really helpful because they tend to get pretty locked up, especially if you're in the New England area. Alright, so now we should be able to just slide off this caliper. Sometimes it's on there kind of tight, so you have to use a pry bar to get it out if the brake pads are seized or something. But right now it looks pretty loose, so we should be able to just slide it off. When you slide it off, make sure that you have something to rest it on because the brake hose is still attached. So, and you don't want to disconnect that because then you'd have to bleed the brakes and everything. So we're just going to rest it on, right here I should be able to rest it on this control arm. But you can also get like a bucket or a hanger or something just to make sure it doesn't fall, because that's bad. And there we go. There we go. Good. Okay, so now that we've removed the caliper, we can go ahead and remove the caliper bracket. That's this thing right here that holds the brake pads in place. All right, so if we take a look behind the caliper bracket, there's a top bolt right here. So that's one. And then the bottom one is right here. Okay, so now that I've loosened each caliper bracket bolt, I can remove them by hand and then just slide the caliper bracket off. Removing the rotor is really easy. The only thing that's sometimes holding it onto the wheel hub is two small screws, right here and right here. I removed those last time I did my brakes, so I don't have them in. The wheel just holds them on the wheel hub, which is fine. But if you have those, you want to remove them, and then you can just slide off the rotor. All right, so here we have our old brake pads. Sometimes they'll slide out easily from the caliper bracket, but sometimes they get kind of stuck like mine are. So it looks like this one will be able to wiggle out. Maybe. Hammer time. Here's one. And then this other one looks particularly stuck. So I'm gonna hit it with a hammer, just a mallet. Good. Here's the other one. So your new brake pad kit should also come with replacement metal shims. It's usually a good idea to get them. They can be reused if you clean them off, but they're pretty cheap. So I'll take these out. And so you also want to check your caliper guide pins to make sure that they're moving freely. In this case, I have this one that looks like it's moving pretty well. It's twisting nicely, but this one is not moving at all. So we're going to want to pull it out, and I'll show you how to grease that up and get it sliding again. So here we go. Here it is. Just put it down here for now. And then this is just a rubber boot that pops right off. So in the hole where the caliper guide pin was in, I'm just spraying it with some brake clean to try to clear out any gunk that's built up in there. So I'll get some of that out, and then I'll clean it up with a Q-tip and just try to get anything I can out of there so that there's a little more room for the pin to slide. And after that hole is all cleared out, you can just put some brake grease on the pin and then put it all back together the way that you took it apart. So now we can take our new metal shims and install them. They should just click in. So now it's important to put some brake grease on all of the locations on the metal shims that are going to be in contact with the brake pads. This will help them slide more easily. Good. Now we can take our new brake pads. But anyway, same thing. Let's apply a little bit of grease to these ends that are going to be contacting the bracket. Good. And we should be able to just slide them in like so. Okay. Looks good. And good. So new rotors usually come with some sort of coating on them to prevent them from rusting when they're in the box. So it's important to clean that off with some brake clean before you install it on your car. Now that the new rotor's on, we can reinstall the caliper bracket along with the new brake pads. Okay, so now we can take the caliper that we put aside, and what we're going to have to do is compress the piston inside of it so that we have enough room to put it on over the new thicker brake pads. And I'll show you how to do that. So I'm taking this pad spreader tool, which is designed to just compress that piston back, and I'm going to install it in the caliper and then just start twisting it clockwise until the end of this tool makes contact with the bottom of that piston. And once it does, it'll get harder to turn, and you'll see if you watch closely, the piston will compress back into that cylinder. So now it's bottomed out, and we'll definitely have enough room to put this over the new brake pads, so we can remove the tool and go ahead and do that. So there it is, our new rotor and brake pads are all put together and it's looking good. There's one more step. So since we pushed the piston and the brake caliper back, it's going to make the brakes a little bit squishy since the lines aren't pressurized. So we're going to have to go into the car and just tap on the brake pedal a few times. You'll feel it a little squishy at first, but then it'll stiffen up and then you're good to go. So sorry about my bare feet here, but hopefully the rest of the video was helpful, and don't forget to subscribe to Paul the Car Whisperer.